This is a demonstration of how to use various costing methods to determine ending inventory and cost of goods sold for a business. We'll be using number 17 in your See Now assignments, which is also problem 13-6 in your textbook. There are several methods that may be used to determine the cost of ending inventory and cost of goods sold for a business. The first one we're going to look at is the first in, first out method. Now this method assumes that the first items purchased are the first items sold, and that your remaining ending inventory would be made up of your last purchases. So let's just take a look at first in, first out. Alright, so it's always important to first find out how many units you have in your ending inventory. So the problem tells us that there are 1,300 units in inventory on September 30th, which is the end of the period. So the question is, under first in, first out, which 1,300 units is it from the beginning inventory and all these purchases? Which 1,300 are we talking about? So since it's first in, first out, the first units purchased are the first ones sold. That means the ending inventory would be made up of the last 1,300 units you purchased. Okay, so let's go over to the worksheet and put that in. We know we've got 1,300, and we know since it's first in, first out, it's the last 1,300. So of the seventh purchase, it's going to be all 700 of these units. Okay, and then 200 more from August 21st would give us 900 accounted for, so that means we need 400 more from this fifth purchase. Okay, so if we still have 400 of those, that means we also sold 400 because there was a total of 800. So to cost these out, we're just going to put their cost per unit, and then we will do the math to figure out what the total cost is. So 400 times 25 is 10,000, and then 200 times 26 is 5,200, and 700 times 27 is 18,900. So that gives us a total of 13 units in ending inventory. So the total cost of all these units is 34,100. Now we'll come over and figure out the amount of cost of goods sold. So if we have these in ending inventory, all other units were sold. So we will start with our fourth purchase and put in the units for all other purchases. Then we'll come in and put in the cost of each purchase per unit. Oops. Okay, that looks about right. Let's do 25. Okay. All right, and now we will total these up. So total cost of all the units sold is 61,500, and there were, if we add these up, 2,700 units. So now let's make sure that all this adds up back to our units available figures over here. So if I sold 2,700 and still have 1,300, if I add those together, I have 4,000. So I know I've accounted for all of my units. Now let's make sure we've applied the cost correctly. If we take 61,500 and add 34,100, these two figures here, I get 95,600, so that was all the goods available for sale. So what we did was take all of our units and then we accounted for them. We either still have them or we sold them. Okay, now let's take a look at last in, first out. It's just the opposite of first in, first out. And that means that the last units purchased were the first units sold. Anything we have in ending inventory comes from the very first units that we had. Okay, so this probably doesn't make a lot of sense as far as what happens in reality, but remember, it's just an assumption. You're not going to sell all your new stuff, all your new inventory, and leave your old stuff on the shelf, but it's just an assumption that is used in figuring out the last in, first out inventory method. Okay, so it's always easiest to figure out the ending inventory first. So we once again know that we have 1,300 units, and since it's last in, first out, we've sold all of these, and the 1,300 we have remaining are the first ones we had. So let's plug in these. We know that we must still have the 400 from beginning inventory, and then we also have 500 from the first purchase. That gives us 900. We'll take 200 from the second purchase. That gives us 1,100. So we still have 200 left in ending inventory. So that 200 is going to come from this third purchase, and then the other 100 must have been sold. So we will put in 200 here and the other 100 under cost of goods sold. So if we still have the first 1,300, the remaining 2,700 are in cost of goods sold. So we'll go ahead with the March 17th purchase and just put that over in cost of goods sold, and then we'll cost everything out. Okay, so let's check this math. That's 4, 5, that's 900, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's our 1,300 units still in ending inventory. We will apply the cost of each unit from over here. So I have 20, 2050, 2150, and 23. We'll total those out, and so that's going to give me 8,000 total here, and our grand total will come up to 27,150. So these 1,300 units under LIFO are costing 27,150. And remember, back under FIFO, they cost 3,400. It just depends on the assumption that you use. Okay, so let's go in and cost out these units. They're 23, 2450, 25, 26, and 27. Their totals are 2,300, 22,050, 20,000, 5,200, and 18,900. So that is going to be, should be 2,700 units, and at a total cost of 68,450. So after we list them out and total them up, we want to make sure that our totals equal back to our goods available over here. So 2,700 and 1,300 will give me 4,000, and then let's do the 68,450 and 27,150 is 95,600. Okay, so we know that we have accounted for all our units. Okay, the next method is going to be weighted average. Okay, weighted average is pretty easy. All you do is you figure out the average cost per unit. So we have got 4,000 units, and altogether they cost $95,600. So to figure out your weighted average, you would take $95,600, divide that by 4,000 to get a per unit cost. So $95,600 divided by 4,000 equals $23.90 per unit. Okay, so let's figure out how much 1,300 units cost. So if I take the ending inventory figure of 1,300 units and multiply that times $23.90, that means that my ending inventory under weighted average is 31,070. I've got 2,700 units that were sold, and each one of those cost $23.90. So my cost of goods sold under weighted average is going to be $64,530. Okay, so weighted average is pretty easy. You just have to remember to take the total cost and divide it by the total units. Okay. All right, specific identification is really not an assumption. It is how the goods actually flow. Okay, under specific identification, they've already specifically provided the information for us as to which ones we still have and which ones we sold. Okay, it's telling us here that the 1,300 units that we still have are from, or 100 are from the first purchase. So we'll go to the first purchase. Cost of ending inventory. We had 100 of them, and first purchase units cost $20.50. So if we still have 100 of these units, that means that 400 of them were sold, and their cost was $20.50 each. Okay, we'll go to the third purchase. 200 we still have in ending inventory. So 200, and the third purchase cost $23. Oops. There was a total, oh, I put that on the second purchase, sorry. Okay, of the third purchase, there were a total of 300. So if we still have 200, then we sold 100, and their cost was $23 each. Okay, next, the fourth purchase. We still have 100 of those. So 100 units from the fourth purchase are $24.50 each. And then the number of units we purchased were 900. So if we still have 100, we must have sold 800. Okay, we'll go to the fifth purchase. We still have 400 units from the fifth purchase. The fifth purchase units cost $25 each. And the total purchased were 800. So we still have 400 of those, or we still have 400, that means we sold 400. Okay, the sixth purchase, we still have 200 from the sixth purchase, and we only had 200, so all of those that we still have, we sold none of those, so we know that that will be 0. And of the seventh purchase, we still have 300. Those cost $27 each. We started out with 700. If we still have 300, that means we sold 400. Now notice it didn't mention the second purchase. So on the second purchase, we purchased 200. We don't have any of those, so that just means that we sold all 200 from the second purchase. Okay, and those were $21.50 each. And notice that we don't have any information that we have any units from the beginning inventory. So that means they must have all been sold. So we had 400 at $20 each. So now we're just going to cost all these out. Okay, if we do apply the math, I'll go ahead and cost all these out. Okay, so we just now do the math. We have 1,300 units here, and at a cost of $32,400. We have 2,700 units here at a total cost of $63,200. So we know 2,700 and 1,300 equal 4,000, and 63.2 and 32.4 are going to equal 95.6.